this is Mike Byrnes with another episode of Business Bests. We're doing a part 2 today on online marketing, specifically with the website. Last time I had talked, we went into the mark netting approach, trying to capture people that come into your website, capture their information so they become real leads. We talked about freemium approaches. I'm going to go in a slightly different direction today and talk about a whole bunch of other things that we didn't cover. When I do this type of website assessments, there are so many things that you can look at, and I'll just take the client through and I'll actually ask them questions. I'll share my expertise and then kind of help them rate themselves on where they need to improve. One of the big things is imagery. There are times where you need to invest in your website. If it's part of your lead process, say you're in a referral-driven industry, but people find out about you and they search you before they ever meet you, your website's getting an assist on those referral strategies. So you can't just rely completely on the word of mouth stuff anymore. Your website has to be really great. If you're losing business because your website, sometimes you don't know about it. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but your website, so if you're gonna invest money in it, you have to have really good images. Today will be interesting because today's day and age, will be interesting because you can use AI to create imagery. Be careful with rights and all that kind of stuff, but be aware of what you can do with AI, and that's only going to get better. But you might want to hire a photographer regularly, because this is something, if your brand is your people, you want to have current photos. Like, you don't want them to have the experience, the photos 5 years or older, and the prospect comes in, they loved seeing the imagery on your website, and they come in and everybody looks completely different. So make sure that you capture that type of, not just the current look of people, but that, what does the office wear? Like, what do the associates wear in the office? What's the experience that they're going to get? I've seen some people have super casual offices, but their photo on their homepage is everyone wearing a tie, or females wearing a really dressy suit or dress, and so that doesn't translate, right? It's a disconnect when the prospect comes in. But maybe there's a reason for that. Imagery is really powerful. A lot of times I'll joke with financial advisors that have the picture of the multi-generational family. They're all wearing white shirts. I happen to be wearing a white shirt today with khaki pants, and they got them rolled up because they're all walking on the ocean, and they're all holding hands, or they're all smiling, and it looks like that stereotypical picture that would be that multi-generational family. That is something that it will carry some weight, but it's stock photography. People know it, right? So make sure that you're trying to get that image across. There are times where you have local clients, right? And that's part of your brand. I worked with somebody once, a firm down in Florida. And they with my help, did a whole bunch of analysis of their clients and realized there's pockets of wealth in certain areas in Florida. And sure enough, these people lived on the ocean and were very nautical in some ways. So we created all kinds of branding elements that were not just pictures of the people and the team, but we actually went and did pictures of marina, local kind of treasures that people would recognize. That stuff carried a lot of weight when somebody was coming in. They felt like they were in the right spot. Like, wow, this is the firm I want to hire. It doesn't just have to be pictures. You can have icons, and you should probably have some kind of icons that go with words and options, because it just actually, the way that we scan information, it just makes it easier, right? Like, if the icon matches what that might be, you might want to say, this is for email, this is for phone calls, this is for online, whatever, and you have a little icon that resonates, like the phone connects with the phone number. That's a real simple example, but you might have different services and you have to create an icon that matches up with them. So icons are important. Make sure that you figure out, is photography that thing that is the lead in your brand? Is it, different cartoons, for example, that could get the message across? Is it something completely different? One of the things you might want to have is pictures of videos, right? So you capture that is someone being recorded, whether it's your own video or whether you're in a studio like this, or maybe you're on a big news channel, right? And that carries a lot of weight to have a picture of the person being on a video or on a news program. Even in a radio station with the big mic in front of them, with the headphones on and all that kind of stuff. It just, a picture tells 1,000 words. So I'm a very visual person, and about 2/3 of people, that's how they learn visually. So make sure that you have a visual strategy and you're working towards that. Infographics can be super powerful because they can get a message across. There are a ton of ways to take something that is just a boring chart. Charts can work too, but you can get a message across. I always like the USA Today. They would have that little kind of chart that actually told a story, and they had a little imagery that went with it. And maybe with AI, that is way easier to create. And that was something in a busy day when I'm like cruising through websites and I have a short attention span. That's something that would suck me in, right? And I would get pulled into what is that chart and what's that imagery that goes with it? What is it trying to tell me? So infographics could be something that you want to invest time in. With video, that's a whole separate category. Do you want to have a welcome video? There's a whole bunch of ways to get your message across when people first come to your website, and telling your own story, actually having, like I said in the photography, like having some local things come across if that's your target market, or showing your target audience, or types of clients that you help, showing some of those awards that maybe you have, or whatever it might be. A video can get that message really across. And so it's something you want to consider. Where does it go? What's the real estate it gets? But have a video strategy. We'll do a whole another segment on videos, but that's something I really want to hammer home. Little things matter, like fonts. Just know if your target audience is older, like 50s or older, you start to not be able to read so well. I see some marketing people that are young that just have no clue about that. If you actually put in a ton of content and it's really hard to read, people just aren't going to read it. So there are ways to get your message across with less words, have very big titles, have bolded categories and bullet points and scannability. We can talk about that more, but the font is really important. There's serif and sans serif. Serif is those, believe the little squiggly things. So if you look at Times New Roman, if you look at the T, it has like two little like kind of circles. The line goes across in the T and the two little things at the end. Sans serif, it just means it doesn't have that stuff. So when you read in paper, believe it or not, those little squiggly things that go at the end of letters actually help you read better on paper. But statistics show that that actually doesn't work online. And the reason I can think about it is maybe it just blurs things or makes it a little easier. So there might be, your style guide might actually have multiple fonts for your company, on paper versus in print. On paper versus online. In print, you might have a heading font, you might have a copy font, you might have a call to action font. You can get carried away. You can have a whole bunch of fonts. But maybe there's a whole system that works, and a really good graphic designer will help you with that. A website designer has to kind of think the same way, but for the website first. Sometimes they can marry up and match, other times they can't. One thing I will really be cautious about is knocked out text. So that's a dark background with light text. Obviously, the best contrast is black background with white text. Too many times I see kind of fancy website people that just want it to look cool, and they're losing that it has to be functional too. You have to balance that. Go look at your website and evaluate, is this hard to read? The obvious one is where people put text over an image. So like in that slider, what I would like to do is have like maybe the picture of the person is a little to the side and the background is really dark, like something like this. And that's where you can maybe have a title, like 3 words that are white text that pop really loud on a on a dark background. And I wear a white shirt, it kind of marries up. Now imagine I'm wearing a yellow shirt and I use a yellow font. It doesn't quite contrast as great, right? So you start to lose a little bit of the readability. It's not to say you can't be done, but you have to think about that knocked out text. The harder it is to read, the less likely they are to read it. If it's important for you to have people read it, then you really need to think about fonts and how they how easy or hard they are to read online. So the backgrounds, we talked a little bit about contrast, but backgrounds can also tie in with your brand, right? So there are times where you just can't control it at all. But you might have kind of this color scheme that you want through the website. You should have a style guide. You should have, your logo color, your other primary colors. Let's just say it's 3 primary colors. Then you have a whole bunch of secondary colors. So when they would kick in is, let's say you had to show a pie chart. You want to have your primary colors, and then you want to have other colors that are used less on your website, but they're there for you in case you ever need them. So let's say you have 8 pieces of a pie. They all need to look different. That's where you need those secondary colors. Have a great strategy there. If you go to a website and it's kind of all over the map, like maybe bright fluorescent colors here, and then you kind of go dark earth tone colors here. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. It really depends on your target audience and the brand that you want to have, but consistency matters. So backgrounds, fonts, knocked out text, that's how I refer to it, and then the color scheme, all that stuff, you get a brand image across, right? Like, if you go to a website and it's all black and white or levels of gray in between, that's going to have a very different message than a website that's flamboyant and really loud and the colors pop and jump off at you. So what's that message you're trying to get across, and what would resonate with your target audience? I've worked with financial advisors before and a female advisor, and they had pink be the picture throughout their whole website. I think that's a little stereotypical that women would like to see pink, but that was their audience, right? They wanted women to feel welcome when they came there. And if it's a website that's for all, men and women, pink's not going to be probably the primary color that people go see. So be careful how you do this. You're actually going to make a decision on what your prospects think and if they feel comfortable there. So believe it or not, colors actually matter. Related to branding, this is one that I really try to push my clients to get out of their comfort zone on. And is that professional versus personal? Like, what's the image that you're trying to get across? A lot of the professionals that I work with are such great people, and that's the connection that they have. Their clients know everything about their family. And by the way, that professional that's working with me knows everything about their clients' families. That's an obvious example of someone that can probably show a little bit more on the personal side. So if I'm sitting in a corner office and I have a tie on all the time and that's all I show, that's one thing that, that's a brand that is very clear, right? Like professional, executive, business owner, whatever it is, like that's the message, right? But if I start to show pictures of me holding my kids when they were younger, or I'm older and I have grandchildren and I'm doing something fun with them, all of a sudden now my image is, hey, maybe I had a professional photo, but now I got the personal one. I'm a family person. And if my clients and prospects are family oriented, I've now made a connection through that imagery. So a lot of times I'll push that imagery is not just professional, but there is some personal side to that. It's nice when these things are clickable too, like the slideshow and other things. You can see what interests people. But one of the other things you want to think about is philanthropic types of pictures. We've talked about cause-related branding, or I have talked about it, and that's one thing that you're going to want to evaluate if that's one of your core values, and if that is part of the services that you offer and it's important to your clientele. That's probably imagery that you want to have, right? And be careful that you're not tooting your horn too much, tooting your own horn. But think about what imagery would really make a difference. Is it you holding that big check, giving it to the local charity, the big cardboard check? Is it you rolling up your sleeves on a volunteer day? What's the imagery? Are you emceeing an event where you're, helping with some foundation raise a lot of money and you're like big in the fundraising? What's that image that could get that message across and that part of your brand? And again, you don't have to have just one theme with all your pictures. I actually like a bio to tell the whole story of that person. So This isn't one size fits all advice, but if you are trying to make a connection with a certain type of client and it matches up, it works. Show your professional headshot, maybe show yourself speaking at a conference so you look like a leader, but then show yourself doing something with your family if you're family oriented, on a ski trip, coaching, whatever it might be. And then what's that philanthropic activity? You're actually being seen doing something, making the world a better place. That could be a bio that people don't even have to read the words on the bio. They just all of a sudden realize, I like that person and I want to work with them. That's the whole point of that. So have a really great visual strategy. Another thing that I'll do analysis on is the level of sophistication on a website. If I have to be a professor to understand what you're writing about, you are losing a big percentage of the audience, right? But if you have sophisticated clients and prospects and you talk at a level that a third grader can understand, maybe you are not making the connection that you need to do. Some happy balance. There are tools that you can download your information, and AI is going to make it even easier to say, hey, what level is this stuff written at? Can you give me a fair assessment? Oh, by the way, our brand on our website, we want to kind of write at a level that high schoolers would understand. Let's try to make this a little softer or harder. Let's try to work on the tone of the writing. They're all different types of things that you can shape. Now, for some, I'm just going to make up a round number. Let's say you have 50 website pages. For someone to go through and rewrite 50 pages, that was a pretty good project. Now you can bring in an intern and say, hey, can you actually evaluate all of this information using AI? And so they can make a recommendation of here's content that's maybe simplified, or maybe you got to bring it up a level, I'm not sure. Here's some content that we have, but it's not making a connection with our target audience. Hey, AI, can you help make this resonate better with women investors? Make up whatever it might be. AI, you put the prompts in, and the more prompts you can put in with AI, the more successful it's going to be in getting you what you need. So you could upload a whole bunch of information on who your clients are and who your prospects are, and then have things rewritten. I can't tell you enough that there are people that just write and write and write, and they're super talented at it, but they just use too many words. This is one time that you could use AI to say, hey, take this 1,000 word piece and make it 250 words. And they can do that, right? They're going to leave out some content, but make sure that you actually are meeting the needs of the world. And so the world is this ADD society. So maybe you don't like that, right? Maybe you don't, like, I want to have all this information so the prospect can see it all. Right? Maybe that's okay, but maybe you put in, here's the 500 words version of it. If you want the 5,000 word version of it, click here and you can download the PDF. Or go to the website page that has it all. So maybe the earlier version is more digestible. I didn't coin this word, but from a marketing standpoint, there's a term called snackable. So make your content snackable. Like, we don't have enough time to digest every word that's in the world. None of us do, and it's only going to get harder and harder to do that. So how could you make your content more snackable or more digestible? One way to do that is to improve scannability. I'm a huge believer in this. So I always thought I wrote for magazines better than some people because I made things more scannable, where you might have someone that is an award-winning writer, but it's just blocks of text and text and text and text. And if someone really read every single word, that article might win a contest, like which one's better. But the reality is we can't read every single word. So scannability helps us. If you think about the way that people read the newspaper, they don't open it up, look at the cover, I should say, and then open it up and read every single word to the very end, right? If they still get a paper, that is. They would actually go to the heading that they would want, the title, and then they would go into the piece, right? So that's what your website has to do. Like, it has to have very digestible things that will pull people in. And guess what? Scannability, so What that could be is different subheads, different coloring, different types of fonts and usage that will make certain things pop over the copy. And then you can actually have like imagery too. Like for example, your call to action might be in text, but if you put a button next to it with certain coloring, it's going to be more successful, likely going to be more successful. So how do you make things scannable? Not just in something that you could do in Microsoft Word, but maybe there's some graphic elements that your website can make things more scannable. The use of imagery and videos along with text can make the text more successful too, and vice versa. There's times where people can't watch a video, right? So they're in a setting where they can't listen, let's just say they're in a cube at an office and they can't listen to a video. So have the text right next to it. You might, if you a little bit on that before I get off that, you don't want to necessarily have the text be the transcript of the video. Summarize something, make it a little bit more of an article as opposed to just the actual transcript. I think you'll be more successful because one, they work together well, but two, you want each of those things to stand alone because someone might just read the text or someone might just watch the video. Scannability is something I think AI has actually got, that is the way that humans read information. So actually, if you ask AI to write something for you right now, it usually is pretty scannable. But scannability can be listicles, so top 10 lists, top 5 lists, top 3, whatever it might be. It could be obviously heading and subheads. If you have a subhead and you have 5 paragraphs underneath it that are all big chunky things, you probably want to break that up. So within those paragraphs, can you get some kind of a mini list out of there? Here's 3 things, or can you have some bullet points? With bullet points, don't just have text sometimes too. You might want to say, what's the 1 or 2 word summary for that bullet point? And then put that in a bold font or maybe a certain color. Have a dash and then have a sentence or 2 that goes with that bullet. Then that makes all those bullets super scannable. So you start to think about a business writing as opposed to copywriting. You wouldn't want to read a novel that had just all kind of scannable formatting throughout. It would break up your flow and the way that you read that. But on a website, imagine you just have a really short attention span. So how do you get that message across? I talked about having a mobile-friendly approach, but when I do the reviews of websites, I spend a whole bunch of time kind of starting with the desktop, which I probably shouldn't do. I probably should start with mobile. But I go through all these things, and then I go through the phone, like every page that we can, to say what's this experience and what does it look like. This is where, let's say you have those little imagery things that go next to something you want people to click on. How does it format? What does it look like? How do those text things, those elements translate? Do they shrink too much? Is it hard to read? From a clickability standpoint too, make sure that everything is really easy to click on mobile, that the experience, like I talked about, hovers, that's not an issue. Think of your client, their attention span. If they're looking at a little screen that's this big, are they going to see the content that is 5 pages down? Like, are they ever going to get there? One thing with menus is a lot of times with the mobile experience, they have that little hamburger. It's a little icon that looks like, stacks, maybe pancakes or something, and they have to click on that to see the menu. This is where your mobile version might force those headings to show on a page, or maybe you have the same website, but it's just responsive. So if I want to list my services, if I'm on my mobile device and I have to click the menu to then get all those lists of services, I probably have dropped the ball, right? Like, I'm probably not going to get people to go into where they want to be, because you can't always trust that they're going to click on that little icon to see what your menus are. So this is where you might want to force them, or put them in your body copy with bulleting or whatever it might be, and make those things clickable too. Don't rely on that desktop menu always being seen. Make sure you have a really good approach for mobile first, and you find out what that experience is, and always be working with your website provider to improve that. All right, we've spent a lot on things that really apply for the homepage, but I want to focus on sub-pages or drill-down pages, whatever you want to call it. That's something that's not seen on the homepage, right? So I click on your thought leadership section, then I see that you've been listed in 20 articles in the press, and then I click on that, and it takes me to the summary of the article. When I get to that summary of the article page, this is where that page has to work on its own. Like all that stuff you have on your homepage could be very well circumvented if people are searching online and the search results are sending them directly to that drill down or sub page. So that page has to be, in its own environment. We talked about things like freemiums. We talked about maybe you have all these different services or different target markets. Is that individual page actually going to cross-sell other pages and cross-sell other sections? Is it going to get them to the freemium? Is it going to get them to the Contact Us page? Is it going to get them to read more articles like that? One of the things you also want to do is they love that website. They love that page, and they want to share it. Create sharing icons. This is where in one click, if it's a professional, they can send it out to LinkedIn. In one click, it's something personal. They want to share it with everybody they know on Facebook, or they want to tweet about it, or whatever it might be. Use the search sharing icons for social networks that go well with whatever you're trying to have on that page or the target audience that's visiting that page. Sharing icons can be super valuable because in one click, you've now allowed for that word of mouth sharing that you maybe so badly want. That's how you're going to grow your business. But they haven't been empowered because they're on your website and that great page they have doesn't make it easy for them to share. If you're counting on them to copy your URL and then go post it into the social network to share it, it's probably not going to happen, right? If you make it a manual process with multiple steps, it's hard. But if in one click they can share that with the world, that's fantastic. One thing that you want to consider is what shows when they click on that sharing icon. Hopefully the title, hopefully the URL, but you might want to also populate that sharing message to have your social media, whatever, right? So if they're sending out a tweet, it's going to reference your Twitter handle, right? So X will allow you to have @ and a certain amount of characters. When I click on, so I'm on a page that I love, I'm a prospect, I want to share this out with everyone I know. I click on it. When that little pop-up message comes, before they hit submit, it should hopefully reference your company name, or at least, or if it's not a company name, maybe it's your individual who wrote that piece. But make sure that they actually can find you on social media, right? So they're not going to, maybe they come to your website, but maybe they just like it and they want to learn more about you, or maybe they want to follow you in that social network too. So sharing icons are really valuable and something that you want to invest time in. And a lot of websites are not very good at it. If you click something or if you put something up that says share this, they got to click that, and then they have like 50 options of what they could click on through social networks to get it out there. It's probably not as effective as actually just picking the ones where you think your audience is, right? And the main ones obviously are Facebook, Instagram. You might want to have things with Twitter. You might want to have things for Pinterest. I doubt it, but maybe. Depends on what you're trying to sell, what your service offering, product or service offering is. You might want to have different things for TikTok or different ways to share videos. So I don't want to go down through the whole laundry list of social icons that you can put up there, but know your target audience. And this goes back to, I've talked about client research. Know what they use from a social network standpoint. Track it in your CRM, keep information, and that makes the website decision easier what you want to show. The Contact Us page is usually one of the things that's most clicked on. If you are not doing a great job on your Contact Us page, you might be losing leads. So this isn't just where you put your company address and your phone number and your email. Maybe you have a form. There are a lot of times, by the way, I test these forms and they don't work, or they get sent to somebody that's so junior that the lead never surfaces to the person that they need to go to. Be careful of forms, but you also, I think sometimes if you show your email, you can get, there's things that are crawling all these different websites and you can get a lot of spam. So if you have an email spam filter that makes it a little easier to show your email. But be cautious of that. Back to some best practices for your Contact Us page. Maybe you show graphically a map of where you are, so if they want to drive there, they could click and see, or they can do a search for directions, how far away your office is. But this is where maybe some of those elements that we talked about that actually are part of your brand come through. So maybe this is where you show the team photo of who you are, what you do. Maybe you show that personal photo there. Maybe you put in some of your awards or designations or some of the press that you've had. Don't complicate things too much, but there's some branding elements you can do on the Contact Us page. If it's a really important part of your process and how you get leads, make sure it's the best Contact Us page you can make. Wrapping up some of the assessment, there's a whole bunch of other things I'm not going to be able to get to on this segment, but one of the things that you want to think about is call to actions. When you have a really great website, you can put stuff in the text, a call to action. Does it go at the bottom of the text? Depends on how long the text is. Do you put it at the very top? Do you weave it in the content? What is the call to action? That kind of relates to the freemiums too. What are you giving away? Is it a free consultation, a free hour, a free event? Test different calls to actions. So in marketing lingo, they call them CATs. I'm a big believer of making your website functional and getting a return on investment on it. So a call to action can be really powerful in getting the results that you want. Make sure that you're utilizing it. Is imagery needed? Do you need a button? Do you need a picture? Do you need like a little square with the picture and words? Whatever it might be. Does it work on the mobile version of your site too? And make sure that things are very clickable, and you get the lead that really loves you. Make it easy for them to want to reach out to you. Some wording that I would think about with the call to actions is make it a little bit urgent. Right? Think about how an editor writes an article. They're always kind of like, you have to have this type of wording as opposed to this is just nice to have. Call to actions can be really valuable. There's a whole bunch of things you can think about on your website. I gave you some. I hope this has been helpful. This is another episode of Business Bests by Mike Byrnes. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you spending some time with me. Thank you very much.